right, geometry, for our absolute final skill of the school year, you're going to be finding the volume of spheres. There's only one type of sphere, and that's an object that looks like a ball. They cannot change them like they can prisms, pyramids, cylinders, cones. Spheres are just ball-like shapes. So, for every single one of these problems, you are going to use the same formula. Volume of a sphere is 4/3, that's 4 divided by 3, times pi, which once again we'll be using 3.14, times the radius, but look carefully, that's cubed to the 3rd power. So honestly, the hardest part of this is going to be making sure you type this in correctly. There is nothing to find on almost any of these questions, and the answers will be very ugly and more than likely require rounding. So even though there's not a lot of work to do, you need to take your time as you type in your answer. For this first question, I will be taking 4/3, 4 divided by 3, times 3.14 times 5 to the 3rd power. Now for some of you, I think this one in particular is a really good one for you to do the 5 to the 3rd power first. So on your calculator, either take 5 to the 3rd power if you know how to use your exponents, and if you don't, just take 5 times 5 times 5. 5 to the 3rd power is going to give you 125. Now from here, you should be able to type that in fairly easily. But I am getting a long decimal. And the 3's keep going on. It's a repeating decimal. Now it wants the nearest hundredth. That means I absolutely have to put 2 decimal places. If I put less than 2, I will get this incorrect. If I put more than 2, I will get this incorrect. The answer will only be counted correctly if I give it 2 decimal places. So remember how rounding works? When you want to round to the 2nd decimal place, you do not care about any numbers after the 3rd decimal place. You look at that number there, and if it is 5 or more, this would round up to a 4. Because it is less than 5, then this 3 does not change the 2nd decimal. So, our answer should be 523.33. I will type that in. We'll verify that our score increases. And you can see we got it correct. You'll notice that the next question is identical. It's another ball shape. The only difference is the radius is now 2 instead of 5. So the only difference in the problem would be that this 5 is now a 2. You still need to take your time typing it in. You're still going to need to round correctly. Let's see if we can find one where they possibly give us something a little more challenging. That one is basically the same thing. The radius is still given. And even on this one, the radius is given. Notice how large the radius is. This is likely going to be a very, very big answer. I'm going to work this one out just so you guys can see how large these answers get. 4/3 times 3.14 times 90 to the 3rd power. 90 to the 3rd power is 729 4,000. So that's a very large number. And I still have to multiply that number by 4/3 and 3.14. Now, the good news is this number was so big that I actually don't get a decimal in my answer. It actually cleared out the entire decimal. So I ended up with 305,2080. And there was no decimal to even be seen, thanks to this number being so big. So honestly, if the number gets as big as it does, that might make your life a little bit easier. Now, I didn't see any examples show up where they had the dotted line go all the way across the sphere. That's the only other thing they could do to make these questions just a little bit different. So if they give you the entire length across the sphere, remember, you need the radius. So the first thing you would do on a question like that is you would divide the number by 2 if it goes all the way across. Then you would plug it in, and you would want to be very careful with the cube. So guys, you got to be able to use your calculator, or this is going to be a tricky one. Rounding is probably more important on this one than either of the other two. Take your time. This is it, the final skill for the year. I've had a good time trying to help you guys given these circumstances. Remember, if I don't talk to you again over the summer, have an incredible summer, and I will see you guys hopefully back at the school when the year starts.